Moon.
They were fake. We did them in Roswell, smoke, mirrors, you know, dry ice.
Grab this piece of equipment and turn this rotary switch 90 degrees to the open position. What that does is it turns on a fan, which creates a suction effect in this hose so that you can use this yellow element for your number one.
Do up here is I really like working out on Earth, so it's actually pretty fun for me to be ground. I wake up the next morning and I'm ready to go again. Go along your skin when you're working out really hard up here. We really pay attention to that when you can actually really come into play. So my message to you guys is pay attention.
Station, this is Houston ACR. Thank you. That concludes our event.
Thank you, Houston.
For number two, the principle is actually exactly the same, suction. We have a solid waste container here, and on top of it is this seat.
When they arose from their sleeping period and the sun was higher, of course, then the browns were observable to them.
Is bright for black astronauts.
There's still a lot of firsts for us to do, and hopefully we'll run out of those firsts pretty quickly, because it's certainly my desire that one of the legacies that I would certainly like to leave behind is bringing in more African American astronauts.
Melvin has been an astronaut. Died when the orbiter exploded shortly after liftoff.
On the moon, aside from the characteristics that I've already mentioned, you generally have the impression of being on a desert-like surface with rather light-colored hues. Yet when you look at fact, and we were never able to find any things that were very different from that color.
Come true, and she even danced in space.
With future flights, we will see that there is, in fact, some color.
NASA was no exception.
We put together our own gig, got ourselves some uniforms, and I told Alita Monroe that I was working for NASA, the Negro American Space Society of Astronauts. Got laid that very night.
The uniforms were stitched by hand. The rockets cobbled together from NASA's discards. Word spread quickly. By the summer of 1960, NASA had over 240 blackastronauts.
And the solid waste container is connected via this hose to the same fan, so that, again, the same suction effects allows you to do your number two in weightlessness. Around day 71, we will have to change it again. But urine gets recycled. So from the pretty complicated hydraulic equipment that is behind here and makes the use of the toilet in space possible, the urine actually gets directly transferred to another piece of equipment which is here in the floor, which is called UPA, Urine Processing Assembly, which is the first step into turning urine into potable water.
They are an embarrassment to the great efforts of the countless men and women.
Those who can remove one of truth's protective layers.
Good. Good, all all he's going to do tonight was sit around and talk. I like to skip along. Not me, boy. Skip. No, dadgummit.
Jack Schmidt having a few problems.
Young girl who loved to stare up at the stars. I imagined myself to take to space with me things that represented people who sometimes are not included. So I took a poster of Judith Jameson performing the dance cry. I took up a Bundu statue, which was for the Women's Society in West Africa. I took up a flag for the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, the oldest African American women's sorority in the United States, because they hadn't been included, and I thought that was an important thing to do. Helped me to recognize that right now, we're in space. This Earth is part of that universe. That was my grand connection. And then I looked down and I saw Chicago. I thought about the little girl who had assumed she would go into space. What would my younger self have thought if she met me? And I think she would have been tickled.
And the staff writer to the president would, of course, prepare.
Absolutely spherical.
Pear-shaped.
Spherical.
Pear-shaped.
Spherical.
Pear-shaped.
Spherical.
Pear-shaped.
Spherical.
Pear-shaped. Rest in peace.
Oh my God.
These brave men know that there is hope for mankind in their sacrifice. These two men are laying down their lives in mankind's most noble goal, the search for truth and understanding. That's creepy, but beautiful.
When those
It's American spirit.
That's right.
And you did this knowing you were at risk of death. To assume the answer to this next question is yes, but I need you on record to say so. Was it worth the risk?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, it was.
We got it. We got